Right. In front of us, we have the base 10 mat, the 10 by 10 mat. And we're going to go beyond this 10 by 10 mat, but I'm going to show you what we can use this for in our counting and in our number sense, understanding bigger and bigger numbers. So in this mat, the way I can count on this and show different numbers is pretty simple. At the very top, this would be my number 1. As I go across the row, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, this would be 10. All right? And I can keep doing that across my rows to 20. Across my row, another group of 10, 30. Keep going, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90. And this would become 100. All right? Which would make this next box 101 if I were counting each of those squares. Now let's zoom out and we'll show what I have beyond that one 10 by 10 mat. I've actually made a mat. It's a 10 by 10 grid of 10 by 10 mats. And it's in a massive number, and we can see how that one little square compares with even larger numbers to understand those bigger and bigger numbers. So as I count down, I have 100. That was my first grid that we just showed. If I add the next grid to that, the next base 10 grid, I'd have 200. 100 more would be 300, 400, 500, 600, 700, 800, 900. And if I count all these squares in the whole column, I'd end up with 1,000. So what can I do beyond that? Well, I can show a number like 5,623. And the way I would do that is by first counting by my first place value, counting by thousands. I've got 1,000 here. My next column would be 2,000, 3,000, my next column, 4,000, 5,000. So my numbers now has 5,000, but I have a little bit more. I've got 600. So past 5,000, I need to count 600. So I have 100, my 10 by 10 base 10 grid, 200, 300, 400, 500, 600. But my number is bigger than that still. I need to add the 20. So as I look at my grid here, I've got 10 right here and another row of 10, which would make 20. And then my last number is 3. And so I could zoom in a little bit and count those 1, 2, 3. So right here, I have my number 5,623. But there's one more thing that I can do with a big mat like this. I can use this also for rounding. And I'll start by rounding to this tens place. And I see that I have a 2 in the tens place. So I'm going to zoom in to this number. And I can see that this number is in between two tens. It's in between this 10, and at the end of the row would be another group of 10. So it's in between 5,620 on the left and 5,630 on the right. And right away I can see that that number would be closer to 5,620, which makes sense because that number to the right of the 2 in the tens place is the 3. And 4 or less, we're going to let that 2 rest, and it's going to become 5,620. I could also use this to round to the nearest 100, which is the number in this place value right here, the 6. And I can tell that this number is in between two hundreds. It's in between this 100, the start of a new group of 100, and in between this last 100. And so I know that it's in between 5,600 and 5,700, and right away I can see that it's much closer to 5,600. And so I would round that to 5,600, which again makes sense. That 2 tells me that that 6 is going to rest. 4 or less, let it rest. Lastly, I'll round to the nearest thousands place. And this one I have to zoom out a little bit to show you. So this number is in between two thousands. It's in between 5,000 way up here and 6,000, which would be down here. And this one's a little bit trickier to see. So what I'm going to do is show you where the middle of this 1,000 is. And the middle is going to be, so I've got 5,100, 200, 300, 400, 500. So my middle point is right here. And again, I can see that anything below 5,500 is going to round to 6,000. Anything above is going to round to 5,000. And I can tell that this number, 5,623, is below that. And so I would round that to the nearest 1,000, which would be 6,000.